Alright, hello and welcome to Rimworld You Suck episode 2. Now, I've been wanting to do episode 2 for quite a while and it's been on the back burner for ideas. I do have the next 4 planned out, so if that's something, if you do watch my channel for Rimworld You Suck, then that's awesome because you're going to really enjoy the next few videos that I have planned. In episode 2, we're going to be speaking about where your colony should be at around 10 minutes, how to design your base to be efficient, using stockpiles efficiently, making sure that your warehouse has all the right things in it, because you do get storerooms and all that, and I think a lot of people would make a separate storeroom for stuff, even though that's not what I would do in-game, and what sort of power output you're looking at, what sort of things you should focus on in the beginning, and all of that. I don't have many mods on at the moment, so you can do this completely vanilla. The biggest one that I do have on is allow tool, which allows me to allow everything on the map. That's pretty much all I use just for this, and I recommend you get that mod anyway. So we're going to find a place with 40 days of growing. That is what I spoke about in episode 1. I said you should aim for about 40 days of growing if you're new to the game. We're new to the game. So let's go with 40 days of growing. Picking your colonists, I've done this before. Make sure you don't get any crazy people, really, people who are going to light your base on fire and all that, especially since we're going to be using wood. So pyromaniac, nope, definitely not. Yeah, this guy's perfect, she's perfect, I mean, you're fine, you're a brawler, I really hate you, you're okay. Alright, so I'm not gonna go into the colonists too much. In the first episode, I spoke about picking out your colonists very carefully, what to prioritize and all that, and I do still agree with what I said in that time. Although I'm sure Alpha 18 is going to be coming out relatively soonish. I'm not actually sure, but I don't think it'll be very far off. Maybe things will change then. So straight away, you're over here. We can get our base set up, chop some wood, get a decent bedroom going. I've spoken about optimizing your bedroom sizes, but I'm just going to go with 5x5 for now. And then we can connect them. Sorry, I'm talking about wall sizes here. It's actually 3x3 if you're not stupid like I am. Yes, I'll go ahead and set this up. And then we have a geyser over here so we can get that later. But it's important to make your bedrooms quickly so you can get beds up and running. Now over here you can see the bedroom, we have the door in the middle, and there's one space over here where I can put the bed. Now generally I would put the beds like this to make it look nice. But if you want to be the most efficient, putting the beds like this is actually the most efficient because they get into the beds by the pillow. So if you put the beds facing this way, they will walk around and then come to the bed. So this is the fastest way. Getting up your beds very quickly is usually the way to go. And then once you've done that, obviously if you've seen the first episode, you'll know what to do up till this point. So let's just let them do this. Alright, cool. So we have the bedroom set up. They're gonna go sleep now, which is fine. I've just set them so they can all plant cut, although I've got them all at 3 right now, but you can change that whatever you want it to be. I'll do that. That seems fine for now. I don't have anything in particular that I need. So next up, we're going to be making the storeroom, the warehouse, whatever, the production center, as I like to say, because I use it extensively. But we're going to be setting up a production center about here. So you don't want it to intersect with the geyser like I just did without even thinking. And then you can put doors in the middle. Wherever you want, you can put doors. Now, it's important to have doors on all sides, because doors in the game actually give you a decent amount of cover, which you can use to stand behind and shoot at people. So I'm going to put the storehouse over here, make it pretty big. Okay, we're going to call it production center from now on. But I'm going to make it pretty big because you want it to be that way. Because your defenses will be overlaid around this area, roughly. Now, it's important to get the production center up and running straight away because of the fact that you need to store things in it. And this is what the stockpile will look like. And obviously it'll be roofed so they won't deteriorate. So it'll look like roughly. And in that, it sounds like this fox just devoured a rat or something. But you want to get that set up. And then as soon as you've done that, you want to get your stone cutting set up and your meal production set up. Those are the two biggest ones. And you can optimize your stockpiles to do it properly. Once we get this center set up. So I'll show you what to do with the doors now to ensure that you're using them properly. But as I said, doors give you a lot of cover, which you can use in the early game if you get raided about right now. We're playing on peaceful difficulty, so the first raid will be a tiny guy with a knife, as is most difficulties actually. But this one especially. Cool, so then you take your doors, select the 4 doors in the production center, or however many you have. You can have up to 8, I think it's fine. And select them to hold open so that there's no time wasted when walking between them. If you have auto doors, this doesn't matter. So if you have auto doors, don't worry about it. Luckily, we do have a geyser over here so we can get power later on. Thinking about the future of the colony here. And now that you have this set up, you have your your storage area right here, you can actually put down your tables on the storage area. And I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but it does actually make sense because now they have the least amount of time going between rooms to try and get stuff. Do that. We can set up power over here. Put the table so we can use the maximum amount of steel. I mean, the minimum amount of steel, excuse me, to make sure this works. And then we get these two set up. Now, these are the two important tables in the game, early game. So, obviously, you want stone cutting as soon as you can. You don't want to leave your base to be made out of wood because a fire could wreck you. Especially if you're using batteries and you have a short circuit event while the raid is going on. And it does happen at harder difficulties when you have 3 or 4 events happening simultaneously. And it'll just screw you. So get your stone cutters table going. This is important. Obviously, you can use any stone you have. Okay, we have 3 stone blocks, so that's pretty nice. And now, since we're on this place, we're on a temperate forest. We have lots of animals roaming around. So getting a freezer set up in the beginning is not a priority at all. Getting your growing zones going is much bigger. I'm gonna get the growing zones set up. It's important to diversify your growing zones. So you do want a big growing zone, but at the same time you don't want to waste too much space. We have this geyser right here. We can plant around it. It's not the biggest deal in the world. But make a decent sized growing zone for your food. I'm going to leave this out as potatoes, but rice is probably the best for you early game. Definitely. Put 8x7. Make this for cotton. You need cotton, it's very important. Let me get set up. If you can facilitate a grower to make you heal root, then go for it. We don't have anyone with a high enough skill to do it. That is not the biggest priority though, because as you can see, right where we've planted heal root, you can actually see what's on top of the heal root. Growing heal root is not the biggest deal in the beginning, but it is important to have a big growing zone so that your grower can eventually get to level 8. And obviously you want to specialize, so leave it off for everyone else except for the one person who you've like designated to be a grower, which is Tyceman. She doesn't have a passion, but she'll get there eventually. It's alright. So once you have these 3 growing zones set up, cotton is very important, a lot more important than people think. And then the food obviously is the most important growing zone in the game. You can sort of take a breather. Now there is another option you can have. So let me just unhide these so you guys can see them a bit more clear. There's another option where I can put down over here, and I can put down smoke leaf if you want. But if you don't know about smoke leaf too often, I wouldn't. If you don't know about it too much, I wouldn't really consider it, just because of how it works. I've done a video on smoke leaf. If you want to go take a look at that, it'll explain why it can be good and why it can be bad, and it definitely can be terrible. Alright, so we've got new lovers. That's amazing, actually. So we've got new lovers, which means they are in love with each other, which means you can actually give them a bed to share. And it'll give you quite a heavy buff. So I'm going to go ahead and uninstall this bed. And we're going to put down a double bed right here. That's a really, really good thing. If you can get lovers in the early game, it's a massive buff. I think it's plus 10 constantly if you let them sleep together. So now that we have the growing zone set up and we have Tyceman set to growing at 1, we can continue with the rest of the base, which is to set up the stone cutting. So I see a ton of granite, so I'm going to go ahead and with granite. I don't recommend using the any stone blocks because you cannot designate things to be built out of any stone blocks. And then the electric stove, cook simple meal. Set it to something very minimal since you don't have a fridge right now. And we can start working on the freezer next. Although, as I said, this is completely optional, having a freezer early game. Cool, so as you can see, I put the conduits through the wall. It's because they're actually pretty ugly to look at. So just keep that in mind. Can put you down to anything below 0 degrees Celsius. Or what is that? What is it in Fahrenheit? Or 32 Fahrenheit works fine. Cool, so we're going to go ahead and build this. As you can see, I put 2 layers of wood in. The reason I've done that is to insulate it. And you want to insulate it because it is important that you don't lose too much temperature during a heat wave and stuff like that, which will kill you. You don't need the biggest freezer in the world. Go to important, allow foods, corpses, animal corpses, make sure that allow rotten is off. And then you can go into plant matter and you can turn on plant matter because plant matter actually does deteriorate, but at a very, very, very slow rate. Speak of the devil and he shall appear. As you can see, there's a heat wave going on, and we can still manage below 0 degrees Celsius. This may not have been the same deal if it wasn't insulated. So then we want to do some hunting, because you do want to supplement your food straight away. In fact, I generally like to disallow packaged survival meals from the get-go. I can just see disaster. You firing at your friends. Cool, so then you can see they'll bring in the corpses to the freezer, which is a big deal because you can actually butcher there, which is nice. And I want to put down the butcher table over here. Now, it seems a bit weird to put the butcher table in the freezer, but it does make sense because the amount of time that you save from not having to carry the meat into the freezer is definitely worth the speed you lose, which is about 40%. Alright, so next up we have efficiency between moving around. So as you can see, we've wasted a lot of time walking between this area over here. And a big way to have efficiency is to actually give them floors. Now, I know I've spoken about using wood is bad and stuff like that, but since our wood is in surplus right now, we can actually afford to just lay some flooring down like this or something like that. Just wherever the heat map shows in your brain where the colonists spend the most amount of time, go ahead and put it there. So for example, I saw him walking roughly in this direction, so you can go ahead and do that. Ski pop, nice. Might have a new friend to join us. So now that we have this colony set up, you can actually go ahead and put your defenses down and joy down, because you'll get a notification about the joy soon. But defenses are a big deal. So by now you need to have started mining occasionally around the map and getting that started. So we're gonna go ahead and put this like that. Just lacing sandbags around the map. It does use a lot of steel, so just keep that in mind, but it is 100% worth it considering you get 65% cover from using sandbags. Now we have natural defense over here, so I don't have to worry about it too much, but I still want to put this down, and I'll put a little cup over on the end so that colonists can shoot to the right and the left, etc. without taking too much damage. Put you down like that. And then like so. Now there is a way to cheese the defense. Absolutely easy way to cheese it. Which is using doors. Using walls and doors between them. You can do that. It is better than this. By a little bit. But that's a really boring way to play. Cheesing the game. But I can definitely do a video on that if you'd like to see how to cheese it. Disnoff, the streamer, he uses it in every single playthrough. But for me, it's sort of boring for that to happen too often. So now colonists will actually put down chunks that they don't need over here in this dumping zone. So for example, if I have Zach set up over here busy shooting at something, I don't have anything to shoot at, but if I have Zach standing over here, I now have a dumping zone over here that pawns need to walk over, and then another line of defense, which is the sandbags that they need to walk over, which means that they need to pretty much double the amount of time it takes for them to walk over to attack your colony, which is great. It's great. It doesn't give them an overt amount to cover, which is pretty good. So then obviously you can designate things to be hauled. At this point in the game, you probably don't have a designated hauler though, which makes sense. You shouldn't this early in the game unless you have someone legit, like genuinely useless. I just want to speak about the layout of the base because it is very important to keep things efficient. And that's what I wanted to speak about in this video. It's all about efficiency. So for Tyspin to walk from the cooking stove to the freezer, it is almost a direct path, and the entire time it's got wood where she walks, so you'll walk like that and then up to the right. Now there is a door to the freezer that's obviously to keep temperature in, but otherwise her movement is just, it's fine. It's not impeded by anything. She can walk directly there. It saves a lot of time. For stone cutters, obviously fetching chunks from outside the base does take a little while. That's not really something you can fix unless you keep chunks inside the zone. But what you can do is have one specific stockpile zone put right here next to the stonecutters table with, say, a granite chunk in it. So if you have a dedicated hauler, you will always have a chunk there, which will increase production time a shit ton. It is insane how quickly you can produce things using that part of your colony. Now, for example, we have this electric tailor bench coming up here, and as soon as we start butchering these animals like this, you'll see we'll start getting squirrel skin, we'll start getting other leather and stuff like that, and it'll start to be brought into this place, which is what Tyspin will do anyways because she needs to bring things out of it. And then once you have that, it'll be put into this area, which you can make clothes with. So we'll start making dusters straight away since we're on a pretty warm planet, or pretty warm part of the planet. And that's why it's important to hunt the same species of animal as much as you can at these. So there we go. She's bringing it into stockpile 1, which is good. And now we have enough to make 1 duster, which is good. If we had hunted 5 or 6 different animals, we'd have 5 or 6 different hides, and you can't use that very easily. Which is why it's ridiculously unlucky to actually have that event where they all attack you. It's crazy unlucky. So I see over here we have some alpacas. It is most definitely worth trying to tame alpacas just because of the fact that they give you wool. A lot of people ask me how worth it is to use animals and all that. I will get into that in another video because there's a lot of math in it. But it depends. Like, chickens can be amazingly good. Chickens can really be amazingly good. So that's it for this colony. I'm going to go ahead and load a colony, which I think you should have by about the 20-minute mark in game. Alright, so this is my colony. This is where I'm at right now. We've got a lot of growing zones. I'm using my normal colonists. I have growing zone for cotton, for strawberry plant over here, heel root, psychoid, hay grass, corn, and then potato plants. And the reason that I have corn is just for funsies. You don't actually need strawberry plants or corn or anything. You can actually just use the same one. I have some stone blocks being made, which is slate and limestone, if I believe. And then, as you can see, the defenses have chunks around them, as well as having it completely around the base. Now, if you're in a mountain base, you don't need to worry about this too much. You can actually just use one or the other. It's fine. But yeah, this is where I expect colonies to be at around 20 minutes, as long as you don't have too many like bad events, you know. Because this is pretty good. This is pretty good. Obviously, you want food to be growing at a decent rate. When it comes to freezers and all that, and just the area in general, you do want it to be clean as possible. But you can only do so much, but having decent floors around makes it a lot easier. But as you can see, the design is exactly the same. I have the production center in the middle of the base. So when colonists go to sleep, they wake up, come to the production center. If they need to cook, they go here, then back into the production center. Everything they have revolves around the production center. So if you had a heat map, the production center would be bright red, and then it would get less and less red as you went around. So for example, they don't spend that much time in this growing zone, but they do spend a lot of time in the production center and in their bedrooms and all that. But that's all about efficiency. Like, you want colonists to spend the least amount of time wasting time doing things that don't produce stuff for the colony. So for example, having the chunks over here means that Gunny can quickly run outside and grab one and then come back in while it gets replaced by other people fetching other chunks, which is nice. And while it's in their downtime, they can clean up the area. Getting research done is also very important. But this is it. This is where I expect you to be in around 20 minutes. After this, you'll slowly start researching turrets and all that. If you want to go into that, I'm busy doing smithing, but you don't need to worry about smithing too much. I just like having guns, having the options of having weapons. If you're new to the game, I do recommend getting turrets up and running straight away. But this is a colony that should survive decently easy on rough or intense. So you will have a hard time dealing with people beyond that, I think, depending on the events. But for rough, it can definitely manage, because if you get raided, colonists will generally position themselves around there, and you'll have the decent amount of cover as well as firepower and all that, which is good. And then obviously you can get weapons off them. But this is it. Thank you for watching episode 2 of Welcome to Rimworld, You Suck. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you learned something, especially when it comes to these kinds of colonies. This is a very default-based vanilla colony. I do recommend changing it up every now and then. But this is it for now, so I'll see you guys all later. Hey you! Thanks so much for making it to the end of my video. I really appreciate it. Editing videos is both my hobby and my passion, and with that in mind, I've decided to open up a Patreon if you'd like to support me besides in the amazing ways that my subscribers already usually do. I've got loads of perks and benefits, including having your own personally custom-made colonist, being one of my default colonists in the mod showcases, special roles on Discord, joining me while I stream, monthly Q&As and podcasts. I've got it all. Come take a look. All support is always appreciated, monetarily or not. If you're a subscriber, then be sure to hit the little bell over here to always be up to date with videos I push out, and head over to the Discord if you ever want to have a deep and meaningful chat with me. And last but not least, I hope you're having an amazing day.